It's a non-dry conversation about with accountants and auditors. It sounds kind of funny. A non-dry. How do you make it non-dry?
Adam, thank you. That is a great question, because as somebody who does not have a financial background, and I just worked for this company that was in it, so I started to research and learn, I found it all very dry. And thankfully, they had this show going for 2 years before I showed up. And they were like, it was just a little like under the radar. A lot of people in the company didn't know we had a show. And I was like, I know this isn't why I was hired, but can I just join you guys? And we started to shake it up because they wanted to be goofier, but they were very red. They would script everything, their answers, their questions. They would have a back and forth email with the guests first. So there was never any surprises. And I was just like, let's get rid of that. There's the wish. They used to have like a goofy closing question. And I was like, let's lean into that energy a little more. So let's bullet point our notes. You can send the guest the questions, but you're not going to have your answers pre-scripted to what you think they're going to respond. Let's just be in the moment and be real and really try to inhabit that. Pretend we're at a happy hour. Workday is done. You had a couple in you, and now you're going to tell me what you think about the SEC cybersecurity ruling.
How much is it pretending, and how much is it that you guys are actually using some flasks?
On that show, fully pretending. Because we do record around 10 in the morning most Fridays. So I don't think the bosses would love that. But we just did our big conference. We interviewed we knocked out like 12 episodes at our big conference in Nashville last week as we're recording. And some of the guests it was definitely during a real happy hour and got to join, and we're a little loosey-goosey. And it was everything I've always wanted.
I've got a couple of questions around the 3 podcasts. I think one of them had 500 episodes. How many do the other 2 have?
Both are a few hundred each.
Okay.
The movie of the year is probably
so
like
around
200.
like 1,000 episodes you published.
Yeah, for these, and like this is, I've been again podcasting a long time. I haven't monetized my specific podcast, but I've taught podcasting. I've produced podcasts for magazines, universities. So yeah, I probably have a couple thousand under my belt.
Okay. How many episodes go out a week between all 3 podcasts?
1 for each.
Okay. 1 a week. Why don't you do 1 a month?
Well, for superhero, it's always about that week's shows. So that's the most timely show. And so it's whatever came out last week. So instead of being like, well, here's for a month of Riverdale and a month of Harley Quinn and a month of Arrow, that would be hard to keep track of. And the conversation's kind of dead for those episodes at that point.
You know what I didn't know is that there was like content coming out that often with actual shows. So
it really is.
So it's like, excuse my naivety, but what kind of platform are these shows coming on? Not yours, but like Harley
Quinn is on HBO Max, Riverdale's CW. Oh, so yeah, cable channels, network TV, all of those, Amazon Prime, Netflix.
Okay. And because sometimes you'll have 4 people on for SSS. Yeah. Sometimes you have 4 different co-hosts, and sometimes you might have 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I even noticed that you were off for a few episodes. So I think I listened to 4 and I only heard you on 1 of them. And I want to get into some of this. First question, I've got so many. This is the hardest thing right now for me. I've got too many questions, but I want to ask, like, within an episode, when you have like 4 people, do all 4 have to watch all of the episodes that you're going to talk about, or how does that work?
No. So early on, that was our rule. And that's how we lost some panelists and some friends. So Ryan and I, who's my main creative producer partner, we're like, how can we make this sustainable? We're getting older. He has a kid. I have a dog I need to take care of. How do we make this work? So we have a main segment. Our everything pop filter is we invented our show skeleton. And even though it's a very improvisational comedy panel style show, it's actually super structured underneath. And we have very clearly defined segments that maybe the listener doesn't even realize is happening, but we know what's going on. And there's a lot of organization on the back end. That hopefully our wacky antics hide that how much thought has been put into it. So we have a main segment that rotates every week because there are so many comic book TV shows. So that rotates, and that's the one we definitely all have to watch. And then we have a segment called the pull list, because in the comic book world, the pull list is you go to your local comic book store and you're like, here's the comics I want every week. Just put them in my folder. And so this is called the pull list. And that's we cover every other show that came out this week. Sometimes if Caitlin's like, I love The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, I'm definitely going to watch that. And so everything's at least covered. And if it's not covered, we at least sort of talk about it or make fun of it, because often if there's a reason none of us are watching it, it's not a good show.